Today is February 19th, and our reflections are about tending to what's beneath the surface before it hardens into something that breaks. Healing begins when we face ourselves with curiosity instead of judgment. Growth doesn't come from escaping responsibility, it comes from engaging honestly, even in the small, unseen parts of life. Hi, I'm Candy, and I'm a mind-body coach. I also use hypnotherapy, and I am deconstructing from evangelical Christianity. And I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. Today's February 19th, and in the Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo kind of talks about how if we learn or fix something at the root, deep within, it will be easier than allowing it to get to the point where we are broken. Well, he talks about how science, if they do surgery on a human before they are born, they will have no scars basically when they're born. So the deeper one, they do it in that deep state where they're not born. By deep, I mean like they go into that dark place, the womb, and do the surgery. They will be born without scars. The quote that I pulled, it is easier to bend underneath the surface, so kind of talking about like in the womb, in the deep, timeless fluid of the beginning, than to break once fully grown. And then the other quote I pulled is, you can return and begin again by facing yourself. So when it's never too late, like even though you're fully grown, you're physically fully grown, your inwardness is constantly growing. And that's something that's never out of reach. It's funny, sometimes we think we're so full grown, but we all know people who are full grown adults that act like children. And it's because their inwardness is struggling to grow, and it's showing itself, it's showing where they're at inwardly, because maybe they either haven't tended to it, or if they've been unable to tend to it, they're not aware. There's trauma. There's all sorts of reasons why we do what we do, and we all have these areas to grow in. But when we face ourselves, when we're willing to actually look at what's going on in that inwardness, we can comfort, we can heal. And so he says, in this way, we can go below our hardened ways to the soft impulses that birthed them. Instead of breaking the bone of our stubbornness, we can nourish the marrow of our feeling unheard. Instead of breaking the bone of our fear, we can cleanse the blood of our feeling unsafe. Instead of counting the scars from being hurt in the world, we can find and re-kiss the very spot in our soul where we began to withhold our trust. And I just feel like that's a beautiful message today, to just go be willing to face those inner things, those things that we're scared to face, the things, put a voice to it, put a name to it, give it a color, a shape. And so it feels a little bit separate from you. So you realize you are not these feelings. You are not, your stubbornness or your fear. It's something you're experiencing. And when you can kind of separate it from yourself, you can maybe do something with it or see it from a different angle. And that can be very helpful. I know that when I've taken away the judgment in my own life, when I have a trigger, I'm not judging it. I won't say I'm bad for having that trigger. Like, why am I doing that? I will ask, why? Why am I being triggered here? And it's gentle and full of curiosity. And then I actually can keep from being stuck. I can move forward when I'm willing to ask myself questions and dig at something that maybe is painful, but still I'm able to work through it. And pain just means it's something I care about in some way. It's something that is meaningful to me in some way. It's triggering something that I'm trying to protect or that my inner child is trying to protect. And then I can be curious and I can comfort and I can work through what I need to work through. So that's what the Book of Awakening kind of talks about today. That's my interpretation of it, anyways. In Jesus Calling, the quote I pulled for today was, when the difficulties in your life feel as if they're closing in on you, break free by spending quality time with me, meaning Jesus. You need to remember who I, Jesus, which is Jesus, am in all my power and glory. Then humbly bring me your prayers and petitions. So I guess in this one, the focus is that you just, when you have problems, the way you feel free from those problems is remember who Jesus is and bringing your problems to him, which does feel like you're handing them off to somebody to take care of, to work through. And in a sense, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be Jesus. It could be, I'm laying down what I cannot control. I'm going to live in the present moment, deal with what I can, and hope that the rest figures itself out, the stuff I cannot control. But it can also mean that some people, things they can do something about, they just give it to God. So there's a lot of, I'm noticing the mindset in Jesus Calling kind of creates less responsibility on the individual and more spiritual bypassing going on. And that, I think, is not the healthiest of mindsets, obviously. It really creates this idea of like, I'm going to escape my problems in some way. I don't really have to figure out solutions. I don't have to be open to solutions. Jesus is going to fix it. And I think that's why you have a lot of evangelicals who do not worry about they're not concerned with climate change because they think God's just going to burn the planet up anyways. And so they don't have to be good stewards of it. That's just one example. So in Jesus Calling, I am starting to pick up a pattern of spiritual bypassing. You just give it all to God, and then you just really don't have to deal with anything. So there's very little personal responsibility. Kind of feels like that anyways. And in my utmost for his highest today, the quotes that I've pulled is, when it comes to taking the initiative against drudgery, we have to take the first step as though there were no God. There is no point in waiting for God to help us. He will not. Which I thought was kind of a shocking statement to read from Oswald Chambers. Then he goes on to say that drudgery is one of the finest tests to determine the genuineness of our character. And he's really talking about how, the menial work, tiresome, the dirty work you have to do, like God's not going to help you. You have to get your hands dirty, which I honestly wish more Christians did do this stuff. They would do the low menial work, especially sometimes as people get into power. A lot of men in power think it's not their job. I've actually heard men say, like, I'm not called to do that. It's like below me, basically. And I think it is a good test of someone's character if how they do that low work, laundry, dishes. You think in a relationship with a couple, straight couple, like a lot of times the woman does a lot of the drudgery work, the invisible labor, I would call it, the stuff that goes unnoticed unless it's not done. Then it's noticed. And a lot of men would just act like that's not my job. I don't do that. It's woman's work, and woman's work is kind of has this connotation that it's less than or it's beneath a man. I'm not saying my husband doesn't do that, but this is definitely a problem in a lot of Christian relationships, but not just Christian relationships, where, the work that has to be done, that is maybe physically hard, or just nobody really likes it, scrubbing toilets, that kind of stuff, how you do that can strengthen your character. So basically saying that when you do it well, like you can sanctify or make holy any type of work, like a very common everyday task, but after you've done it, then you might find that God was there, or he transformed it into something beautiful in some way. And I think more than anything, the common menial tasks shape our character. And it has nothing really necessarily to do with a God outside of ourselves, but source within, but because that's who we truly are. And we shape our character, we keep ourselves humble, um, and we learn how to do the hard things and maybe even make those enjoyable. I know I used to really, really hate doing laundry, but now I'll put a video on my phone or some music, and I'll fold the laundry. And it's not so bad at all. I don't hate it. It's kind of I know what to do. I get to almost check out because I don't need a whole lot of brain power to fold clothes. So sometimes I look forward to it. And same with like cleaning the kitchen or after dinner or something like that. So I don't know, just some thoughts on, what to do with drudgery. I mean, so far the last 2 days, with my utmost, it's not been as terrible as I have thought of it, though it definitely seems like self-erasure in the mindset that it kind of brings forward. The last couple days, I've seen a little more humanness to it, where you're not completely erasing yourself. You're kind of engaging in what it means to be human a little bit. So I don't know, different feel to the last 2 ones. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it if you want to share, and take all 3 of these, do what you will with them. Have a great day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.